What is up, my friends? Jesse with Just Man Sports Cards. Thank you for joining me. Today, I'm going to bring you a clip from Sports Card Madness. I will link their YouTube channel down below. Definitely give them a like and subscribe and check this video out. I got permission to use this clip. So it's an interview with Nat Turner. They talk about all sorts of stuff. You can see the video is about 48 minutes long. I'm only going to use about 2 or 3 minutes of it and just talk about it. It's mainly about the grading piece. Some of you will know that I regularly grade cards. I've probably graded about 2,000 cards now. So we'll jump into it on how they asked Nat the question, and then I'll kind of jump in periodically to get my thoughts.
One of the questions that I wanted to ask was around your PSA 10. And I just want to get your opinion on whether you believe like the standards have changed with a PSA 10, kind of more like older slabs, like vintage slabs versus now today, like the grading. Has the grading gotten harder? It just kind of feels like that. Like maybe back in the day it was a little bit easier to get a 10. It's a lot more difficult now, it feels like, or vice versa. Maybe it was a lot harder last. Like, what are your thoughts around? Has the standards changed?
It's funny. We hear the opposite from sometimes. It really depends on who you talk to, and it's going to be something everyone loves to debate every time, every chance they get. No, I mean, our standards haven't changed. Our grading team is largely. I mean, there's folks in the room who started working here the year I was born. I mean,
oh wow,
that's great. Not only have the standards not changed, the people actually haven't even changed.
Oh wow.
So. But I hear it, a lot. I mean, I think it depends on the cards people look at. For example, like the super modern stuff, I don't know, 50, 60% of them are 10s now. The Prism, like Victor Wembanyama, and, so those folks are like, you're giving out too many 10s. And then the 80s,
50, 60%. That's interesting.
Well, I mean, you can look it up on
yeah, sure. Yeah. Right. Look at the register.
Yeah, then, right. Then the 80s and 70s collectors, they accuse us of not giving out any 10s. So
yeah,
no, the standards haven't changed. The grading team is every card gets reviewed multiple times by multiple graders. I do hear the conspiracies around like older holders and new, and we see a lot of those. I think it's interesting that most of those come back in for reholder. So if there was some people say, oh well, it was harder to get 10s back then. Well, you would think that old holders then command a premium, but in fact, most people are sending. Well, we see a ton of those come in for reholder. So then that really doesn't make sense. You know what I mean?
So there's just conspiracies and different.
I don't know. I think it depends on who you ask. Everyone.
So this is pretty interesting. This is something I see regularly. It's something I've done. I think it kind of leans towards Nat saying like, if it was harder back then, why would you send it in? I agree. I think most people, over half people, would say that grading is tougher now. So I think this kind of supports that. But I think there's two big reasons why people send in older cases, especially on expensive cards. And most of that reason doesn't actually have to do with grading standards. I think it has to do with the security of it actually being a PSA holder. Have you seen some of these older PSA holders? They look like out of the 80s and stuff, and it's hard to tell the security measures that were taken on it. So on, like, let's just use a number, $1,000 card. If you're going to resell that in an old PSA holder, I think the majority of people prefer that to be in a new holder just from the security standpoint. Then you can scan the QR code, and the PSA case just has more security in it, which makes you feel a little better as a collector as well as a seller, that you're going to get the proper value for your card. I think the other piece of it's probably a less percent, and it's more to do with selling it. Is I think with the viewpoint of that grading is a little stricter and harder now, is that when it looks like it's in a new case, even though it has an old cert number, some people might not pick up on that. Then there's a premium for that. So like some people believe there's a premium for older cards and newer cases because the grading is tougher now. And I've seen that with some big cards where you look at it and you're like, man, that is not a PSA 10, but they gave it a PSA 10 back 10, 15, 20 years ago. And maybe that's just because they didn't have enough examples of the card. So to me, that's a big reason why people send in older, high grade, high dollar cards to get reholdered. And now they're going to kind of go more into the standards.
Has their own opinion, but
Yeah.
you know,
You made a strong point there saying
Yeah.
not only have the standards not changed, but the people haven't
Yeah, it's the
changed.
same people.
That's pretty funny.
Seriously.
But I mean, I'll
No.
tell you the other thing. I mean, we are using technology too. Like we have technology
okay.
for detecting counterfeiting. We use technology for centering now. So you like the system will not let you give a 10 if the card is less than the allowable centering. For a
Interesting.
10.
So you're using like a computer program or
Yeah.
AI or something like that to be a backstop.
Yeah, no, it's still up to the human at the end of the day, the grader, to come up with the overall grade. But you know, as it relates to centering, like a max allowable grade is a thing for, you know, if the card is 70-30, it certainly cannot be a 10.
Sure.
Now, we were very good at making sure 70-30 centered cards weren't getting a 10 before, but mistakes happen in a purely manual, you know, environment. So, you know, we're nudging towards, you know, even more consistency and accuracy using tech as well. But yeah, that's what I would say.
When did you start using that tech, Matt? I'm just curious.
The counterfeiting stuff, probably counterfeit detection, I don't know, a year ago, maybe.
Okay.
Centering. I mean, I've talked about this before in some other pods, but like centering, I think it's 6 months ago, maybe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
Nice.
mean, it's not it's a co-pilot. It's not, you know, our vision is not automated grading. Our vision is technology assisted human grading. You know, that's the most accurate way. I mean, so many cards, you just with a 2-dimensional picture, you just can only do so much. And even then, you know, the feel of the card, in some cases, the smell of the card, like you just can't replicate, and all the different angles that you hold it in under certain lighting to detect surface defect. Like you just pure automation is not, in my opinion, not the answer. Other people disagree with that. That's totally fine. But you know, our solution is meant to be a hybrid of the two.
Yeah, it's cyborg grading. Little human, little machine,
Maybe.
right?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's mostly human, which is what we want. I mean, in my opinion, this is it's more of an art sometimes with certain cards. Like, you know, you have to have history and experience, you know, seeing thousands of cards of that exact type to know what good looks like and what real looks like. And that you can't automate that, you know.
Yeah,
but now,
makes sense.
you know, certain cards you probably could, you know, like modern Pokemon and all that ultra modern Pokemon, and Prism, you know, there's less of an art to that, but it's still prone to error, and you know, you have to be very good at it.
Excellent. Yeah, it's interesting.
So I think this is great. He talks about the AI tools kind of helping out. I think this only also points to, and like Nat doesn't have a proper channel to rebuttal this, my small channel, and it's just discussion meant here. I'm not trying to argue or anything. I think he's making great points, but it's like with the AI tools, the grading's more consistent, which I would also say is more stricter. I think that's great from like a high-end product. Is what you truly want is for it to be consistent. If you order something off Amazon and you really like that product, you always want it to be the same. I thought they had been using this AI tool for longer than 6 months, so that was good for me to hear that. It's actually pretty recent. I hate, and this occasionally happens to me, is I will get a card that's has a certain number on it, and the centering does not match it. And to me, that's really, really frustrating because I want my 8s to look like 8s, and I want my 9s. If my 8 looks like a 9, that's great. If my 9 looks like a 10, that's great. But I don't want my 9 to look like 8 centering. So when I pay for a 9, I want it to look like 9 centering. And I've even had it where I've sent back a couple cards that not to PSA on eBay when I bought them, and the seller took like a weird picture angle, and then I get it. And I'm like, man, this is like 7 centering at best, and somehow this got a PSA 9. So I'm really happy to hear about that. It only makes me believe in PSA more. They're the only people I grade with, the only company I grade with. So I thought this was a really interesting interview. Definitely check out Sports Card Madness. It looks like they're also on Apple Podcasts if you want to check them out there.